Hi, my name is Vlad and I help electronic music producers learn how to mix music at a radio quality level. So if you are struggling with making your tracks sound professional, polished, powerful, commercial, if you're struggling with translating your ideas from your head, you just can't make your tracks sound as you feel it, as you hear it in your head, translate these raw ideas, then make sure you watch this video training till the end, because in this video training, I'm going to show you 5 secrets or 5 key concepts that allowed me to make my music sound professional, commercial, polished, and powerful. I'm going to show you every single of these concepts in real life. Also, if you haven't already, make sure you read through the PDF, the free cheat sheet that I have made, because it is very, very important. I've shared these stories, so in the PDF you have the context. I've tried to share a story for every single of these concepts. And now I'm going to show you the track. I'm going to break down everything. This is the latest track that I've been working on for the release. And I'm really excited to show you guys the techniques, the details, everything. Basically everything that allowed me to make it sound really, really good. So without further talking, let's get started. So here are the things that we are going to cover in this video training. Number 1, sound selection, the secret to professional radio quality mixes, how to select the right sounds. I will guide you through, I will show you, I will explain how I select sounds for my tracks. You will understand the full process and you will be able to select the right sounds for your track. Number 2, how to arrange your tracks like the pros for a clean sound. So as you probably know by now, if you have read the cheat sheet, the PDF, you know that the sound selection and the arrangement, these are the most important things when it comes to making your track sound powerful, making it sound interesting, professional, commercial, and so on. So I will break down the full arrangement and I will show you my mistakes that I have made in the beginning. And after I have fixed these mistakes, the track, it just became so much better, so much more professional, so much more interesting. Number 3, how to mix any sound using the block system. So as you know by now, deconstructing and fixing your existing mix, your existing track, is the key to learning how to mix at a radio quality level. So if you want to learn how to mix, how to make your track sound as good as the tracks from your favorite artist on the radio, you need to take your track and you need to deconstruct it. You need to reassemble it and fix it, mix it from scratch. This is how you will understand the full process, and with help of the block system, the system I have developed, you will be able to construct any mix. You will be able to mix any sounds. And in this video training, I will show you the block system. I will explain the way I mix the drums, the kick, also a little bit about the group processing, so you can get an idea and understand how the block system works. The next one, why you need to have a mentor if you want to learn how to mix at a radio quality level. So I will tell you my story, how I learned how to mix, and how big of a role a mentor had in my journey. And finally, the last thing, how to make a beginner mix sound professional with details, ear candy, and automation. So I hope you guys are excited, and let's get started. So first, I'm going to play for you the track. And after that, I will start explaining. So we will start with the sound selection. So let me play you the first drop. So the beginning plus the first drop. And after that, when I'm going to be explaining the arrangement, I will also show you the rest of the track. It's pretty similar, but it is not exactly the same thing. So let me play this track for you. This is how it sounds. So this is the track. It's one of my best tracks now so far, and I'm really satisfied with the results, with the mixing, how it sounds, the arrangement, etc. So let's start with the sound selection. But one important thing before we start with the sound selection, before I teach you how to do that, and before I explain the process, how I selected the sounds for this track, let me show you the diagram first. So I want you to look at this. So here I have broken down the process of the track creation. So let me guide you through this thing. First of all, when we are starting a track, we are starting with an idea. It may be a guitar if you are like me, if you like raw live instruments. I use them a lot. I really like using live instruments in electronic dance music. I just mix, EDM with organic sounds, and that's one of my favorite things, one of my signature things and styles. So we start with an idea. Usually it can be like a guitar, can be a chord progression, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to sound selection and the sound design. And I have highlighted it. It's red because it's your track's foundation. Before I learned this concept, for me, it was very, very hard. I just didn't know why I couldn't mix my tracks, why they sounded not as good as the tracks from my favorite artist. And the more experienced I got, the better I understood this concept, sound selection and the sound design. I was trying to fix bad sounds so many times. I was trying to mix and it just didn't work. And the problem was simply that my sound selection and the sound design, it just wasn't good enough. So this is very important. This is why we need to spend a lot of time. It's not like that. You really need to spend a lot of time. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes it can be really, really fast. But what I'm trying to tell you guys here is that it is really important. Don't underestimate the importance of the sound selection slash sound design, because it's your track's foundation. This is the reason why so many of those professional tracks, this is why they sound so good. Because the vocals, the instruments, the guitars, everything, it sounds good from the beginning. That's the secret. The secret is, there's no secret to a radio quality mix. It is all about the system. It is all about understanding the full process. After that, we have the arrangement, mixing, and mastering. But if you fail with the sound selection, you can still fix that with the arrangement. Yes, partially, and partially with mixing. But at the end of the day, if you don't get this right, you won't be able to achieve a professional radio quality mix. So this is why it is so important. So the sound selection and the arrangement, I would say that these are the most important parts of the whole mixing process, because the mixing process, I would say, like the mixing itself, like the real mixing, like compression, EQing, everything, this is maximum like 30%, maybe even like 15-20. So I hope you guys understand this idea, and now let's dive deep into the track. Let me show you everything. So I want to start off with the drums, and after that I will show you the kick, the bass, and also the melodic sounds. The main guitar, it is not actually a guitar; it is an oud. It is a little bit different, but let's pretend that this is a guitar. So let's start with the drums. And if I play the drums, if you listen to the drums, you can hear that just the drums, I have disabled all of the group processing. Just the drums, raw drums on their own, they sound good. They sound really good. I think that's for an unprocessed sound, that's really good. Because usually how it was for me before I learned that sound selection is so important, I was selecting just wrong sounds, weak sounds. I mean, if you have a sample pack and if you select the sounds, you select the loops, and if it doesn't sound good, that simply means that you just have to replace the sounds. Don't try to fix it in the mix. Forget about that, guys. It's just not the way how it works. It's impossible to mix. To fix it in the mix. It is not about that. It is about selecting the right sounds from the beginning. And if I play you the processing, I will break down it a bit later. But if I play the drums now with the processing, now without, the loudness and the character is pretty much the same, but there is a difference in dynamics, in character, and this is the power of selecting the right sounds from the beginning. You can hear that the drum loop, it didn't change that much, actually. It didn't change that much, but I could, with the processing, I could make it sound fuller. I could make it sound more interesting, more professional for that matter. So, once again, the same loop, but with the processing. And what I want to illustrate with this story is it's really important to select the right sounds from the beginning. And I've actually spent some time, I would say like maybe around an hour, just picking the right drum sounds. And you should do it too, because if you do it, it will be so easy to finish tracks, to mix tracks, and to make them sound professional. That's the thing. It's not about some secret mixing techniques that you need to learn, or plugins, or the stuff, you name it. It's not about that. It is about selecting the right sounds from the beginning. And also, if I show you the main guitar loop or the oud loop, if you listen, for example, to this one, you can see that this is it is one take that I have copied here. So basically, the main oud loop is this long, and after that I have used some automation. I'll break this down for you as well. If I play you this loop, what's the thing? Why I'm showing you this loop? Why it is so important? I have tried to record this exact loop, I would say minimum 20 times. I would say around like 35, maybe 40 times. So I was recording. I kept recording until I felt like, yes, now it sounds good. Now it sounds perfect. It perfectly fits the rhythm of the track. So if you listen with the metronome, sounds really good. But before I was able to record and put this loop here, it took me around like minimum 30, maybe 40 minutes to record this loop. And that's the thing. That's the secret. There's no like very secret technique that you need to do or the plugins. It is really about nailing the fundamentals. And in this case, fundamental thing is recording your instruments properly. If you are like me, if you like recording instruments, or selecting the right sounds, selecting the loops as well, sound designing your synths, all of the sounds. This is why it is so important. So forget about I can fix it in the mix, forget this phrase, forget this concept, and focus on the fundamental things. Because if you do that, the mixing process, it will be so easy, it will be fun, and you'll fall in love with that, because mixing, it can be and it should be interesting, it should be creative. So instead of focusing on like technical aspects, like trying to fix a bad sound, like weak sounds, you just select the right sound from the beginning, and you further shape them with the processing, and you make them sound even more professional. That's the thing. That's the secret. So I hope you guys understand why it is so important to select the right sounds. Let me show you one more example. And if we take the let's take this one. So this is the breakdown. If I disable this group, the track, the breakdown, it will lose its vibe, because these sounds, they are very important. Listen to them carefully. Listen to the effects section too. And if I just play the solo oud, definitely not bad, but something is missing. I'll break down this for you guys, the details, the arrangement. For now, I just want to teach you this concept, the sound selection. So all together with the atmospheric sounds. You can see how important it is to select the right sounds. This is the real life example, the real life scenario where, I was making this track and I had to make this decision. And I want to show you the previous version of the track. So now we can start with the arrangement. I hope you guys understood this concept. So once again, if you want to make your tracks sound professional, you need to master the art of sound selection and sound design, right? So now let's start with the arrangement. So now I'm going to teach you how to arrange your tracks like the pros for a clean sound, plus full arrangement breakdown. Let's get started with that. So you've heard this version. This is the last version of the track because I already have almost have mixed the full track. And I want to show you the previous version of exactly the same track.
Footsteps at your door. I know you're not alone, but I keep on waiting. I keep on waiting. I'm waiting, and you do, with no answer. I'm waiting for too long, with no reason.
So now let me explain what's the problem with this arrangement, because I'm sure many of you guys will like this, the vocal, the previous version, and I do like it too. But the problem with the vocal, I think the vocal itself, it's weak. It's too weak for the track. I mean, the idea is cool. I could develop this idea into a full track, but I just felt like it was weak, and it didn't sound that nice in the beginning, like here, and that was the problem. That was the reason why I have replaced it with the oud sound. So if you listen to this one now, to the next one, let's make it red, and let's make this one let's say pink. So here's the thing, guys. The reason why I have added the oud or the guitar in the beginning, because I felt like after the vocal, it just comes from nowhere. It feels like these tracks are like two parts of two different tracks. The vocal, I mean, yes, it sounds more commercial, more mainstream, if I can say so, but I just felt like there was a problem. So let me show you this one more time. Right, so it just comes from nowhere. I mean, the drop is cool. I like it. Sounds pretty cool, but the problem was that the transition, it wasn't smooth. But if you listen to the next one, to the final version, listen carefully. Listen to the transition, listen to the details. Right, so I hope you guys get the idea, because there is a logic in this arrangement. There is a story behind this arrangement. In the beginning, we start off with the hook, like straight away. That's the tip for you guys. Start with the main theme. Try to catch the listener's attention from the first second of the track. So in this case, it works really well as the previous version. But now we have the oud in the beginning. It plays, right? So and after that we have the drop, right? So we have introduced this instrument in the beginning, and after that we continue to develop this idea. That was the reason why I had to remove the vocal. I just felt like the vocal is cool, but it's just weak. So what I want to tell you and illustrate with this story is, don't be afraid to delete the sounds that don't work for your track. Don't feel like, oh, I feel pity about that. I really like this sound. Maybe I've spent some time tweaking the this patch for the synthesizer, or like whatever. You don't have to permanently delete it, but what you can do, just save the preset, import it to your library. For example, if you look at mine, this is my library. These sounds are my exclusive sounds, and what I'm doing, like every time I finish a track, I just resample. I'm going to take this loop and I'm going to put it in the library. And this way I'm collecting assets. I'm collecting my own library of assets. So in this case, I could take the track and I could import it to my library and use it another time. So don't be afraid to delete the sounds that don't work, but if it's a good sound, it would be like stupid to get rid of that sound, to delete it permanently, but just use your own library and import it and just use it the next time. And you will see the magic. When you have your own library, you will finish your tracks faster because you already have the loops, the one shots, etc. So, right, I hope you guys get the idea. Now, let me break down the arrangement. So, the thing in this track, I just have one instrument, just one main instrument, just one main lead sound. There was a really, really good example that I really wanted to show you. And here it is. It is this piano sound, which actually fits the track. If you listen here, and if we listen to the oud, let me play you everything from here. So you can hear, let's make it a little bit louder, and let me play this once again. The thing is, it fits to the vibe of the track, but this is exactly the same problem. I felt like, yeah, why not put a piano? I really like this type of chord. If you listen to this one, this is like housey kind of chord that I'm using almost in any track. But in this particular track, it just didn't work. I didn't like how it sounded. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to delete this. You can see, I'm just going to delete this because it just doesn't make any sense. The track, it won't lose its idea, its vibe if I delete this piano sound. But on the other hand, if you listen to these sounds, to the supporting sounds, the thing I've talked about in my cheat sheet, so we have the flute, these sounds, they add atmosphere. These sounds, they are supporting the main oud. And if you look at the arrangement, if you look at the amount of the tracks, yes, it seems like 56, but we are not going to count these because these are the effects. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So around 56 minus 9, which is going to be 47, just 47 tracks. And I'm not even counting like the effect sounds. I could say like this is just one track. I just had to split them so I could process them separately. But in reality, I just have the main lead sound, the kick, the bass, and the drums. And that's the secret, guys. That's the secret how you make professional radio quality mixes. Instead of trying to add more, try to focus on the main idea. Try to resample in this case, it's the guitar, it's the oud. Try to work with the existing elements. I really wanted to make like a full-fledged track with this instrument, with the oud, and that's what I've done here. You can see that the arrangement is really, really minimalistic. I don't have much going on. So if we play all together, you're just gonna hear the drums, the kick, the bass, the oud, and some effects like, for example, this one. stuff like this. This is about like ear candy, but I'll show you this bit later. So that's the secret. Keep it simple. Don't try to add too many tracks, too many elements, because you just need to have one main element. Whether it's a vocal, the main lead sound, you have to develop this idea. You have to develop this sound. This is the secret. This is how you make it, right? So in this case, it is a really, really good example of a minimalistic track, which sounds interesting. Like, I mean, it sounds good. If you listen to the drop, I wouldn't say that it sounds like too empty, because here's the thing, guys. If I solo the oud, because we just have one main element, I can make the oud really, really deep, really spacious, really lush. I'm sure you guys can hear the difference, and that's the thing, because the more space you have in your track, the easier it is to mix. So once again, the reason why the tracks of your favorite artist, why they sound so good, because they have simple arrangements. Yes, they might have a lot of tracks, but that doesn't mean that they have overcomplicated things, right? That doesn't mean that they have added too much. They have added exactly enough to make it sound good, and that's the thing. That's the secret. And in this example, guys, I'm showing you that it doesn't have to be complicated. Music doesn't have to be complicated. In fact, it is harder to make a good track with less amount of channels, like, you know, each of those channels. That's really the thing. So you can see that I'm not using a lot. I'm not using that much. So now I want to show you the ear candy, because ear candy automations and stuff, this is the stuff that is going to make your tracks way more interesting, way more professional. And if your tracks sound okay, like, you know, maybe not too professional, but good enough, if you implement these techniques that I'm going to show you now, you can improve the sound of your tracks a lot. You can make your mixes sound way more professional. So if you use every single of the concepts, if you follow, I don't like the word rules, but if you follow these concepts, if you implement these concepts in your mixes, you will see the results like instantly at once. So now let me show you all of the nitty-gritty details that I have in this track, because they really make a lot of sense. We're going to start with the breakdown. So in the breakdown, what I want to show you. So first of all, I want to show you a couple of field recordings, like this one, for example. This is the subway. This is the subway I have recorded when I was traveling. And if you listen with the oud, we could add some reverb. Now the second one, this is like bubbles, kind of like underwater kind of vibe. I'm such a huge fan of using field recordings, like foley sounds, stuff like that. I'm recording like all the time. You can record, this was recorded with an iPhone 6, guys. With an iPhone 6. Even if you don't have a recorder, just use what you have. It's going to sound okay. Yes, the quality might not be like amazing, but it's definitely enough to spice up your track, to make it sound more interesting. Because without that, if we listen to the rest of the instruments, this is another one. I'll break this down for you guys. But without the effects section, it sounds boring. It's something, with Foley, with sounds like this one, you can fill up the space, like the background in your mix very, very easily without sacrificing the needed space that you need for your instrument. So you won't have to sacrifice it, because we can process these sounds a lot actually without making the track muddy. That's the thing. Use Foley sounds. This is going to make your tracks much more interesting. Okay, now the next detail. So in the beginning, if we just listen to the oud without the drum section, it sounds good. I think so. But now with the drums, first of all, we have the snap. The snap, this is just, I have recorded on my microphone, just, in my studio, like pretty simple snap. But I have recorded this drum loop. This is the drum that I have. And what it does, it repeats the part of the groove of the track, of the kick and the bass, if we listen, but now without the oud. Now with the snap. And now with the oud, so what it does, it supports the rhythm of the oud. It supports the pulse of the oud. Let me show you in solo. And without the reverb, and without the drum. So it's not really audible, but those details are the key to a professional radio quality mix. So if you want to achieve that, if you want to take your mixes to the next level, if you want to sound as good as your favorite artist, consider the details. I'll also show you the automation, because this is also a really, really big part of the track. After that, we have some transition effects. These are pretty simple ones. You can find sounds like this is the impact. You can find similar sounds in almost any pack, like this. After that, we have the riser. So this is pretty basic stuff. I don't think I need to explain these two, but let me show you this. This is a really cool technique, not really the technique, like the thing I have used in this track. And what I've done, I have recorded the aircraft. It was like about almost 5 years ago. Wow. So I was in an aircraft, and what they are telling, it's in Russian, by the way. What they are telling to prepare for the flights that we are going to start now, right? So, and that was the idea. That was also something personal. That's the part of the story. You can even use that when you're going to be marketing your music. I think it's a really good example. And what it does, what this transition does, it introduces, I would say, like a pause, like a short little break before the track hits. Because if I would just start with the main drop, just like straight after the break, like here, it would be boring. So I want you to listen now. So listen to this specific part. Listen how this aircraft recording, how it adds vibe, it adds character.
вертикальное положение.
Alright, so I hope it makes sense for you guys. Let's continue. The next thing, this is the little trick that I am using quite often. So that was that's actually one of the sounds from the previous version of the track. But what it is actually, in a nutshell, this is the bass sound that I have processed with a delay. So if I play you this is the bass sound. And what I did, I reversed this sound and used it as a transition effect. We need to use an EQ here because we don't want that much of the bass. Let me quickly fix that, just like this. All right, so this is how it sounds. And if you listen to the kick and to the bass, and now with the bass, it's such a small thing, but so many people forget about that. It's really about the details, nitty-gritty details that you need to do in your mix. The next thing, what I did here, I resampled the original kick. And if you look here, I'm using a filter, and here's the automation. So we are closing the filter, like rolling off the low end. And on top of that, I have layered the noise. And this is like, it's such a simple thing, but because I'm also using the panning here, right? So if you look here, this is left, right, left, right. It's not in mono, by the way. So if you listen, and we are rolling off the low end. That's the thing, right? And in the context of the mix, if you listen now, try paying attention here, so to this part.
Приведите спинку кресла в вертикальное положение.
All right, so this is really cool stuff I'm showing you. The next thing I've shown you this, but what it is actually, this is just the reverse. What I did, I took this part, I applied some reverb, some delay, and I have made two sounds. So this is the first one, and after that we have this atmospheric sounds which supports the ouds or like the guitar. If I play you this, listen to how it sounds with these two effects. By the way, I made these sounds out of the original one. So this is what I'm telling you guys. Don't try to add too much. Use the sounds that you have. Try to work and develop the idea, and try to make new sounds from the existing ones. We can make it a little bit louder. Right, so you can feel how it adds that background atmosphere, right? So if I show you the processing, it's really simple, just an EQ, reverb, delay, the echo boy, and a little bit of overdrive to make it brighter. And that's basically the thing. And let's go further. This is the next foley loop. I have recorded this in the forest. So what it really is, it is the atmosphere, the field recording. I mean, it adds atmosphere to the track, and it's going to be like a rhythmic texture. And what I did, I used warping, like automatic. You can do this manually, but since it's a rhythmic texture, so if I play for you the kick, the bass, and let's apply some reverb. It's so subtle that it's really hard to hear it in the track, but in the context of the mix, it really makes a lot of sense. Now the second thing, the shaker effect. Really simple sound, but if you do like this, it's really cool. It adds that vibe. Now we have this the riser kind of effect, but what I did here, I used the vocoder. So without the effect, it was like, I just didn't like how it sounded. So what I did, I just applied a vocoder, used some EQing before and after, and I turned it into a noise riser. Yeah, that fits the vibe, because the noise, it's neutral. It's really neutral, and it works really well. So if we listen here, a couple of things that I want to explain. There is a change in the rhythm. So if you look here, right? So this is the transition, and I'm also here. I'm opening the filter on the kick and the bass. And it helps to smooth the transition, right? So that's basically the thing. Also, one small little trick that I have used, it's the percussion sound. So it is this one. Let me show you this. Can you hear this percussion? So the problem with this percussive sound was it wasn't audible in the mix, but I've tried to use the same approach as for this part. I just panned it hard left, hard right, and this way, for our ears, for the human ears, it is easier to recognize, to feel the sound when we have panning going on, right? So when we put it like panning to the left, to the right, it's much easier to recognize, and that's the trick I have used here. What else do we have? We have the flute sounds that I have recorded. I play flute. Yeah, so basically the purpose of these sounds is to support the main one. This one too, also the oud effects. It just helps to smooth the transition. That's really the thing. Also, if you listen to this group, I'm using some special plugins. These, by the way, are free. You can Google Valhalla DSP. The different ones. I just love, valhalladsp.com. I just really love these plugins. They are free, but they can add depth, like sort of depth to your mix. So if we listen, I'm going to make them a little bit louder so you can really feel what they are doing. If you listen to the oud, let's disable the reverb. So these weird sounds, I made them with Valhalla. I'm not going to explain every single of these because it's going to take too much. It's going to take too long. But basically, I'm using automation on specific phrases that I wanted to emphasize. Sometimes I layer them like this. For example, this one too. And I'm basically layering different sounds here, right? So I think that was pretty much it with the arrangement. Let me check if I have any other elements, because this is really more about the approach. Oh yeah, actually, now one more thing. Here, if you look at the shakers, you can see that I have a gap here, and the reason for that is really simple, because the shaker, this sound, this one, because it's in the same register as these shakers. And if I play them together, they are going to conflict with each other. So remember, every sound has a register. And if you have too much of sound like playing at the same time, it's not going to work. It's going to sound muddy, and that's the thing. Also, this shaker loop, it really supports the groove. All together. And especially with the oud. Let me just copy this one so you could really feel the difference. And play this with a shaker. It clashes, right? They are conflicting. So I don't like that. So instead, what I've done, I just removed the shakers from here. And this way I've left more space for my for the second shaker, I mean, right? And it makes the mix much more transparent, much more clean. So that's the thing. You just can't have too many elements playing at the same time. That's the problem I see when people send me their tracks for mixing, or when I am working with my students. I sometimes just, I just have tracks that have too many tracks. And I'm working with my students. I'm helping them to understand this concept so they could develop the main idea, the main instrument. That's really the secret, guys. So the same thing for the breakdown. On the breakdown, I do have the same sounds. Also a transition here that helps to make it smoother, basically. Some additional sounds here. So if you listen all together, and this sound is also very important. This is me writing on the paper, and it adds such an amazing vibe. I would say a little bit of ancient, I would say. I'm thinking about maybe Egypt, something like this when I'm listening to this part. So I'm thinking of ancient Egypt, Middle East, and someone is writing, on the paper, or the stuff that they had before the paper, right? And it's I don't know. I just love that, guys. I'm trying to show you small details that really made this track so good, right? So now we are finished with the let me check. We're finished with the sound selection. So I've shown you how to select the right samples and why you should do that. I've broken down the arrangement, all of the details. We have talked. We have a couple of things. How to mix any sound using the block system. So this is going to be really, really interesting. It is hard to include everything in one lesson, so it's not really long, but I'll try to keep it simple. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you how I mix the drums, the kick, and the bass, and a little bit of automation as well, before we end with this tutorial. So let me break down the processing that I have on the kick and on the bass. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bypass everything because the project is so heavy. My computer, it just can't handle it. So let me show you this. Yeah, you can see the CPU load. So we have the kick. And this is how the kick sounds before the processing. Now with the processing, it's a little bit different, but it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to show you now, guys, how I mixed the track step by step. So let me bypass everything that I have here, and we will go through. You can see that on the kick, I don't have like that much of processing actually. So for the kick, I'm using a synth called Kick 2 by Sonic Academy. I'm not going to break this down. I just want to focus on the mixing. Right, so let's start with an EQ. So on the EQ, if you listen to the kick, sounds like this. Now with the EQ, sounds a little bit softer. So I cut a little bit here of the low mids and a little bit here because I just like the kicks with this type of sound. The next one is saturation. Saturation is really the key to making your kicks sound good. Also the low end. And that's without. And that's with. I'm not going to explain like in really deep and in details. I just want to show you the approach. Some people say that you can't use multiband on the low end, that you should not be using multiband saturation. I think this is BS. If that sounds good, it sounds good. And in this case, it sounds good. I'm using multiband compression. I'm using multiband saturation, and it sounds good. So you should not care about what other people tell you. Listen, but if you don't agree, just ignore that. So yeah, I've split the kick into 5 bands, and this allowed me to rebalance it the way I wanted, because without that, so this way I can rebalance, especially this part. So what, 60 to 150 or 135, I'm sorry. So this is really the key. Solo the sub from 0 till 60, and solo the thumb of the kick, 60 to 135 slash 150. So that's really like the sub, the body of the kick. Let's go further. Some tube saturations here. I am EQing a little bit, reducing a little bit of the bass, mids, and treble. Without. Helps to smooth the dynamics and glue the kick a little bit more. After that, I have an EQ, and with this equalizer, if you listen without, so what it does, it adds a little bit more of the sub, and also I'm reducing 160 here, and that's pretty much it. That's basically all I did. You can also use Pultec. The key here is to use equalizers like this one. So this is really cool stuff. You can use Pultec, for example, like this one. It's the same thing. So essentially it's the same thing. Just make sure you use equalizers like this one, because they are really simple to use, but they sound amazing. They have this vibe. After that, some multiband, and everything I did here was just compressing this section, because the kick, it was too subby. So if I solo, I play without the multiband, makes it more balanced. You can play with the attack, with the release. So probably I could, maybe I could change it. So depending on the groove of your track, you can really play around with the attack and the release. So I feel like around here, I'm going to tweak the release a little bit. But don't over compress your sounds. You can see here, I'm compressing quite heavily. I can do something like maybe 6 to 1. Yeah, it's around 61. So be careful with compression. Don't use too short attack, because it's going to have introduce distortion. So just one band. That's how you could use multi-band compression to fix specific bands or problems. And after that, just shaping the overall dynamics with the glue compressor. yeah, you can see that I'm not using a filter. So in this case, we can do that. So it is only going to work for the frequencies above 200 because I have used the multiband here, right? And after that, I'm using the glue compressor. So maybe we could do like this, or we could, you know, we could just compress the whole thing. It could work too, so you can play around with that too, right? So that's it for the kick. Let me freeze the kick. Okay, so now let me break down the bass processing for you guys. So this is how the main bass sounds without the processing, together with the kick, and no group processing here either. You can see I'm automating the cutoff here. Actually, throughout the whole track, just need to add something here. But it's already sounding good. I mean, the bass is good. I like how it sounds. So let me rebalance this. And we're going to start from the beginning here too. So on the bass, it's almost the same thing. Not that much, but yeah, I do have some processing. Actually, 1, 2, 3 compressors and two saturators, 1 EQ, the analog one. So yeah, for the EQ, it's pretty much the same thing. You just need to find the frequencies for the kick and for the bass. It's not like rocket science. I just felt like I need to reduce this area. After that, some sidechain. So without the sidechain, there's not going to be that pumping effect. And with the sidechain, we have this signature EDM pumping sound. One more thing about sidechain here, usually I split my sound into 2 bands, but in this case, I wanted to apply the sidechain to the whole thing. But usually I would apply sidechain to the frequencies from 0 till 300, but in this case, it is working in just like 1 band. And this way we are able to achieve that pumping effect. After that, we do have some spectral sidechain, which sounds like this. So basically, this is the kick, but if this is the volume shaper, basically like volume automation, this is the real stuff. This is the real thing. It finds the frequencies on the bass and ducks them when the kick hits. So this way, you can make your low end really, really transparent, really balanced, really professional. After that, some saturation. This is tape emulation plugin. That's without. That's with. One more, this is the same plugin. A little bit of EQ here, just reduce the bass a little bit. Yeah, so the purpose here is to smooth the dynamics, add a little bit of warmth. Now the EQ here. That's without. Not such a big difference, just boosting a little bit here, 160, reducing, I'm reducing and boosting at the same time, and this way I'm able to get a little bit more saturation. This is cool thing about Portec and similar kinds of EQ. You can do that really, really easily. All right, so the next thing, the multiband. So for the multiband, this is the same thing. What I was trying to do here, I was trying to pick the right attack and release and reduce the sub parts of the bass to make it like more controlled, more glued together. So that was the purpose of using multiband compressor here. sounds a little bit more balanced. After that, shaping the whole thing with the glue compressor, it's pretty subtle actually. So it only reacts when the bass notes, like when the filter opens. That's really the thing. And the ratio is just 2:1. That's really subtle, because I know some people are over compressing. I do that sometimes too. Sometimes I compress very heavily, sometimes I compress a little bit. And after that, we can add some volume. Yeah, so smoothing the dynamics with the Teletronics LA2A. Okay, so that's pretty much it for the bass. Or we still have the group processing on the low end, and also the drums before we end. Okay, so now let me show you the group processing on the kick and on the bass. So first, I'm going to show you this without the group processing, just the kick and the bass on their own. There is a second bass layer here actually. It's really wide, and I have cut the low frequency so it doesn't conflict with the bass. Some side tuning here, same thing. A little bit of erosion. And also a little bit of harsh effect to make it really wide. And with the bass, because this bass is in mono, the main one, and I have the second layer, right? So that's without the processing, just the kick and the bass. Already good, but now with the processing, really cool. I like that. So let me break this down for you guys. A basic EQ just to filter the low frequencies. Here, actually the same approach really. So now what I'm trying to do with saturation, I'm soloing the sub, saturating the sub, reducing the dynamics, gluing the kick, the bass together. After that, from 60 to 135, that's my thump. That's the punch of the kick. Right? About. The difference is dramatic. The difference is huge. So with saturation, you can really change the character of your kick and of your bass. You can rebalance the frequency. So let's say I feel like maybe a little bit we have a little bit too much of the sub frequencies, but anyway, that's how you do that. So experiment with that. So you can see my bands: 0, 60, 60, 135, 135, 400, and after that you can go further if you wish. After that, a little bit of EQing here too, so boosting 160, reducing 330. There's no rules, you just have to experiment with that, but without the EQ. So we are adding this area. Maybe it's too much. I think it's fine. Yeah, maybe just, just a tiny bit here. Yeah, so that's basically it. You have to find that for yourself. The multi-band compressor. So this one is quite interesting. So I would say that the most important part here is this one. So we have two bands, and what I'm trying to do here, for this band, I'm using a long attack, a long release. So this way I'm letting the transient of the kick through, and by using a long release, I'm gluing my kick and the bass group. Without. You can feel this pumping effect with this one, and the same for for the low frequencies. Since we have compressed quite heavily on the kick and on the bass, I'm using pretty light or low compression ratio. So let me show you without. So we are gluing the kick and the bass together. I know some people say that multi-band compressor changes the sound. So if you're really worried about that, you can do like this. So you can split the bands, so you don't have like overlapping stuff here. I don't care about that. I don't think the difference is that huge. I mean, I would say that there are more benefits than downsides of using a compressor, multi-band compressor. So that's without. A little bit more balanced. After that, glue compression. So that's the regular one, Ableton stock, really long attack, almost the longest one. And yeah, so basically it just smooths the overall dynamics. The compression ratio is 2 to 1. And finally, we have this compressor. So this is my favorite one so far. This is the tube compressor, which makes the sound of the kick and of the bass so silky smooth. If you listen without. So you can play with the filter. In this case, I think till 150 would be good. Actually, we can use it on the whole thing because I want to apply this type of compression to the whole thing, and maybe a little bit less of compression here. Just 1 dB. I mean, I'm not trying to overcompress. I'm just trying to add that character. So once again, without the processing. And with the block system, it is really simple to deconstruct the sound. So in this case, I knew that I wanted to have this multi-band-ish kind of vibe on my kick, on my bass, and that's the reason why I used that filter, the Saturn 2, and the FabFilter Pro MB, the multi-band compressor, because I knew that I need these tools to get this character. That's why block system is so good. That's why I have developed this system. And it just, you just break down the mixing process into predictable building blocks. The basic building blocks. So in this example, you can see that the EQ is one block, saturation is another block. So I know that with this block, with saturation, I'm able to get this sound, the sound that I want. That's the purpose. The same thing with this vintage EQ, the same thing with the multi-band. That's how you can do that. And if you try to fix your existing mix, that's how I learned how to mix. So if you've read the PDF, you know my story. That was the number one thing for me that allowed me to learn how to mix and make my track sound so good. I mean, as you can hear it now, I think it sounds really good. And that's it for the low end. You can see I have some processing, quite heavy processing on the drums. So let's start with the parallel processing. So these are the drums, right? They sound like this. So what I'm doing here, I am adding the character with parallel processing. I'm not going to explain how to do that. That's pretty basic, but I just wanted to show you the approach. So basically, I have 3 channels. Actually, Yeah, 2 channels. I'm sorry. So we have 2 channels. One is unprocessed, and the second one is with quite heavy saturation. You can also use compression. So mono. Really weird sound, but when you are combining 2, like really, one sound is raw, like one track, and the second one is like very saturated, very compressed. This way we can make the drum loop, the guitar sound fatter. So that was the thing here. So -18, just mixing a little bit of that. It may sound like really weird in terms of like phase, but in the mix, it sounds really, really good. Okay, so after that, some basic EQing. Just to roll off the low end, so it doesn't conflict with the kick and with the bass. After that, here's the trick that you're gonna love. I'm using IDS, so this way I'm just reducing the very harsh frequencies of my drums. Just about 2 dB of gain reduction. And after that, the second one, the second DS, also around 2 dB, but a little bit different range, I would say, or like the frequencies. Yeah, so you can hear it doesn't do that much. So we can do like this. Yeah, so all the harsh frequencies we can remove with the DS. Be careful with that. After that, I'm using a clipper. To smooth the dynamics and glue the drums together. After that, a little bit of transient shaping. So this one is pretty complicated. 3 bands with different settings. So that's how it sounds in 100%. That's without. So in this case, I'm using parallel processing, so I could get both, the best out of both. A little bit of multi-band compression here, just trying to smooth the dynamics, compress the different parts. Glues the sound together. A little bit of dynamic EQ, basically like a DS. If you listen to this one, so this one is a little bit harsh, so we can do like this, and the same thing here too. Without. The difference is not that big, but it definitely makes the drum loop, the whole drum loop, more balanced. After that, some tape saturation. Makes the drums really smooth, so here also parallel processing. After that, I am using Tech, so this is the vintage EQ. Without. Some side chaining. And finally, some compression. So here I'm using parallel compression, just about 30% mix, but it's the drum loop, the whole thing is compressed quite heavily. So if you look here, but at the same time, this allows you to make the drum loop really fat. If you combine like all together, and without. really nice and fat. I could even bypass the parallel processing. Yeah, so this is how you can mix your drums. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Also, one thing I want to show you is the drums automation. So if you listen to the drums, it's basically the same thing as for the kick and for the bass. So if you listen here to the mix, I'm closing the filter. And one more example that I'm going to show you is going to be this one. So the oud, the break. So if you listen without the filter, it's not going to sound as interesting as a live, I would say. And with the filter, you can add movement. You can put a filter on like any group, any sound, and it will make it more interesting. So we are starting with like slightly closed filter. This way we can give more space for the elements, like for the drums, for the kick, and for the bass. So yeah, that was it with the track breakdown. As promised, I've shown you everything, or like almost everything. If I would explain every single thing, it would probably take like 5 hours. But anyway, I've tried to share every single interesting thing, every single interesting concept that will help you to make your tracks sound professional. Before we end with this amazing mixing video training, I want to tell you my story and show you why it is so important to have a mentor. So if you read the PDF, you know that in 2018 I was making my first album. My production skills, they were pretty good. I was able to finish my music, but when it came to the mixing, I just didn't know what to do. I felt lost, I felt frustrated, and I've got to the point, like, it was so bad that I wanted to quit. And I enrolled in a mixing masterclass, and it was a school that I was already a member of that school. But the issue was that I just had access to their course. It's like a subscription, really popular thing for production schools, or like, you know, a lot of online services. So I watched the mixing tutorials, I watched the video lessons, all the stuff like sound design, mixing, but I just couldn't progress further. And they had this mixing masterclass, and that was exactly at the time where I was so frustrated. I was talking to my dad, and he was like, maybe you should try another thing. And I was like, no, I want to make music. I want to make music full time, and I don't see my life without music. For me, failing was the biggest fear. And also one of the big problems was that the music that I made at that point, it was good, but the mixing, it ruined everything. So I enrolled in that mixing masterclass, and apart from the course, they had coaching where a person would break down your track, you know, like the full track, and tell you, okay, so if you have problems with the bass, you need to fix that bass. Or if you have the problems with, you know, with the drums, with the arrangement, you need to do that, and that. And here's the thing, guys. Before I enrolled in that mixing course, coaching program, masterclass, I just didn't know if I was in the right way. I just didn't know if I was doing the right thing, because I mixed a track. There was a track, one of my very, very first tracks that I've mixed, and I felt like, wow, it sounds so good. When I listen to it now, I'm like, yes, I mean, it doesn't sound that bad. It doesn't sound awful, but there's such a dramatic difference even between me before the mixing masterclass and after. In just 8 weeks, I learned how to mix. Yes, of course, I had to practice, and it's not like you learn everything. I'm still learning, and even the Grammy-nominated engineers, they are still evolving. It's not like you can't be perfect in anything. You can't be perfect. You're always learning, and that's the reason why music is so good. And with help of my mentor, he guided me. It was so important. I'm going to tell you 2 more stories. I have a friend. He is a member of that school. He had access to the same masterclass or the mixing course, but without any support. And he got to the point where his mixes, they were pretty good, actually. I can tell you that they were pretty good. But when I was talking to him, he was like, man, I'm still struggling, and I'm sometimes just guessing if I'm doing the right thing. The second thing, you can't guarantee that you're gonna make it fast without any help, without the help of the person who sees the whole picture. He has done that. He has the results. He has done that for himself. He has worked with the students, and when you're working with someone, the speed of the learning, like if you imagine the learning curve, it goes like exponentially. That's the reason, right? And one more example. I had students who have been making music for quite a while, like 7, even 10 years, and they reach out to me because they just didn't understand something. And sometimes it can be such a small thing that you may have forgotten about because you are self-taught, right? And without any help, it may take you like maybe months, maybe days, maybe weeks, and sometimes even years to learn this one simple concept that is holding you back from achieving a big milestone. So with these examples, I've shown you why it is so important to have a mentor if you want to learn how to mix. I mean, any skill, not just mixing, music production, any skill. It is really, really important. So once again, a person has experience, he can show you the right way, he can guide you and point at your specific mistakes. Before the internet, the only way to learn something was to sit, talk, and listen to experienced people like your grandma, your grandpa, because they have experience. They're really like wise, like imagine like an old wise man who knows everything, who has experience. It's essentially the same thing. As a human beings, we are used to that form. Courses are amazing, but you still need to have a mentor, because that's the fastest and the easiest way how to do that. You see that on my own example. I've told you about my friends, and I told you just this one more example with the experience, how it was before the internet. So the only way to learn something was to actually go and talk to the person who has got the result and who's able to do that. So that is everything for today. We are finally done. And if you enjoyed the PDF, if you enjoyed the way I teach, if you got value from this video training, I want to invite you to come and join me in my private student group on Facebook, where I'm going to be doing weekly track reviews. I'm going to take the tracks from the people in the group. I will live stream my screen, and I will go through each of these tracks and break it down. We're going to have the weekly coaching sessions, like Q&A. I'm going to be using Ableton, showing you the concepts, drawing and explaining. A community of like-minded people, music producers. What else do we have? Exclusive posts. So I will talk to you. I will ask you what you guys want to learn, and I will make exclusive posts in that group so I can really cover the things that you want to learn. And finally, if you like the way I teach, if you like the music I make, you can ask any questions in the group and get my help. So that was it for. And one more thing, if you guys want to work with me personally, I also have a course. So if you want to learn how to mix at a radio quality level, you can book a call, a free strategy session, completely cost free. I will talk to you. You will tell me a little bit more about yourself, and we'll just talk, and I will see if that would be a good fit. And if that's a good fit, you can join my course, or you can work with me personally. I also offer personal coaching. So all of the links are down below. The buttons, everything, just click on the buttons so you could join the group, book a call, and that's gonna be it. So thank you very much, guys, for your time. Thank you for your attention, and I see you in the group, and we'll talk soon. Have a nice one.